and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Do we have any additions, deletions, changes to the agenda, Mr. Martin?
Just a correction on the third item, I believe, the resolution. You have a replacement there. There was a omission of a number change, and Sherry will be glad to comment on that, or we can at that time. But that just wanted to point that out on item 3.
Okay.
Other than that, no changes recommended.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Motion by Gardner, second by Thompson. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Do we have any public comments as to anything on the agenda this evening? And immediately following our special meeting tonight, we will have a city workshop. The purpose of this public meeting is to accept input from all interested parties relative to the discussion, consideration, and tentative approval of the fiscal year 2022-23 proposed millage rate and operating budget for the city of Clewiston. This meeting constitutes the first of 2 hearing processes and was announced to the general public through the Hendry County Notice of Proposed Property Taxes. At this time, the fiscal year 2022-23 tentative budget hearing is open. The city of Clewiston, Florida proposes a tentative tax on all property located within the city at the rate of 6.5314 mils for the fiscal year 2022-2023. The rate of 6.5314 mils represents a 6.45% increase over the 6.1358 rollback millage rate as defined by the Florida statutes. The total of the proposed capital and operating budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 is $48,529,488. Do we have any comments by the public at this time in reference to? Hearing none, resolution number 2022-66, millage resolution, reading by title, a resolution of the city of Clewiston, Florida, adopting a tentative millage rate for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022-2023. Do we have any discussion?
I'm going to support the resolution tonight, but I do look forward to the rest of the workshops to continue the discussion of, I think it's a difference of $118,000 between the millage rate and the rollback rate. So, but I do make that motion to approve the resolution.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gardner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Heislope. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Budget Resolution 2022-067, reading by title, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. Do we have any discussion as to this motion, this resolution, excuse me?
I have a couple of questions, but
Yes, sir.
if you want to wait till
Either way.
the motion's on the floor or not.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gardner, second by Heisel.
Well, I motioned.
You
Sorry.
motioned, thank you.
Second.
Motion by Heislope, second by Gardner. Mr. Commissioner Pittman, questions?
Yeah, on the, let me get over to the page. It's about the reserves. on the revenue side, to balance the budget, did we use any reserves at any of our reserve accounts?
What page are you on, Jimmy? I'm sorry.
Transfers
Page 8.
It's,
or transfers.
No, that's not it.
Yes, that would be.
well, it's on page 1 at the top. It says cash forward, transfers, reserves. We still have some in the working budget, but the 2023 budget says 4.5 million. I'm just assuming, but I'd rather get the facts instead of assume.
Thought I saw something about that in the
Yes,
email
and
on cash
I had
on
I had a fun list of that, and I should have brought that in with me. If you look on page 1 of the tentative budget, oh, I don't have this on. Oh, I'm good, okay. You'll see the cash forward. We're bringing $4,617,115 forward. 4 million, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous with the, so, then, if you look on, I should have. Page 14. You'll see the contingent expenses, 3,199, $3,199,324. So the difference would be what it took to balance.
The difference in 30,
If you see
3
the,
point,
if,
basically 3.2 and 4.6.
yes, yes.
So we're using reserves of 1.4 million roughly to balance this budget. I mean, am I in the ballpark?
Those funds are.
Oh.
Purposeful.
Right. We're bringing forward, the cash that we're bringing forward, we have a lot that from the fuel taxes for the Ventura project, all of that's being brought forward, and it has to be used for transportation expenses.
No, I'm just asking, out of our reserves, what are we taking out of this sheet that you emailed all of us today? It looks like 1.4 million is going to be removed from our reserves, but
Yeah,
I'm
and I
just
have the
asking.
notes on it, and I apologize, I should have brought that in with me before the tentative hearing, but if I can go and get my notes, they spell it out. Or if I could look at it on here, I can even see if I can pull it up on here while we talk.
But there are a number of categories, including carryover for already specified expenditures that are included. Clearly not. Appropriation. Restricted, unreserved, balance the capital consideration.
And all that you just said, you did not use the word reserves,
That's correct.
and that's the number I
It's in-
want.
It's in cash, it's in reserves, but it's not unrestricted, some of it is already appropriated, but
Yeah, I understand the carry forward.
yes, sir. I understand where you want to get to, and she'll break it down so that.
Right, I'm getting to the point, if we keep depleting our reserves, and if this number is correct here, we have 2 million 800,000 roughly left.
2,000,009.
So
Almost 2.9.
out of that, we're going to be using some. It sounds like, we don't know how much yet, but in the next year, we're going to use some. And the next year, pretty soon, that number is going to go down.
Actually, I think it'll be the opposite. It's gonna go up, and it's going up, went up this year. Very aware that the reserves needed to catch back up, get back in a place that's acceptable for a unit this size with a budget our size in terms of operating funds and emergency funds and all.
Sherry, don't let that laptop frustrate you. Go ahead and grab off your desk, whatever you need. We have plenty of time.
We can maybe cover others and come back once you.
Yeah, we can come back to that. That's not a,
But that's obviously a priority for us to build reserves, not take them down. And I'm glad you asked the question because that needs to be. I didn't believe that we were half our reserves if you balanced out.
Unrestricted reserves.
Yes, that's
How about transfers from one department to another to balance their budget?
now from fund to fund. There are to the general fund that have always been there. Compensate the general fund for the entire.
Like each department contributes to
No,
it?
just utilities.
Just utilities.
Just the utilities and the solid waste fund, the only ones that pay.
Yeah, my concern was one department other to balance the shortcomings of another.
You want to go get it?
No,
Yeah. go
Yeah,
go ahead.
Hard time.
Go grab it.
Take me a few minutes.
That's all
because
right.
I need to print it out.
Take your
and
time.
I have to turn my computer on.
no worries.
This isn't
Okay,
working.
so maybe we can see if there are other questions that I can answer once you, I don't know, or discussion that you want to handle.
yeah, I have another question. And, just getting the revenues is on page 4,
Okay,
at the bottom of the page.
of the detail.
Yeah, of the, yes, of the detail.
Yes, sir.
Charges for services, culture, or recreation. In, the total activity in '21 was 31,700. We budgeted this year 30,000, but yet next year we think we're going to rent it 70,000?
Yep.
Why do we
Break
think that?
down for you. And the reason is, if you recall during that workshop, we're increasing several of the rates and new programs that generate, a lot of them, a few, haven't been done in the past, and we're estimating what might be. In fact, I think she did a breakdown and was going to point out about the revenue. I think she was prepared. But that's why the increase is there. Programs.
It seems like a
Haven't
long
been
shot.
there before.
I mean, to go over double, but I hope we make it. But
But I think the fees are also part of that. Was
Yeah,
it-
the fee increases is some of it, and that includes, rentals.
oh, yeah, I
We
understand.
recommend, if you approve the budget, and these numbers are based on if you approve.
And isn't it a 3-year average? I mean, so the pandemic,
She
we,
did do averaging.
maybe
to
longer
try
than
to
3
take that
years?
Out of it, and. she
maybe
did
the
that in
busiest
several
years, yeah.
Multi-year averages.
It wasn't just from year to year, from
So
what I
hopefully she can
remember
give
the
that
workshop.
breakdown when she comes back, because I know she was prepared because that question was asked. Questions? Let's see, others that we can identify.
Some of these on the golf course seems to be a stretch.
On the golf course, again, you recall, those are a significant increase in everything they charge. Concession sales all the way up to based on that conservative 5-year average of rounds of play, not what we experienced this year. Gary, to put those together based on plus the increase that was going to affect the budget.
How do they track these revenues?
They're through their accounting. Deposits would be.
When somebody comes in and pays, how do they differentiate what they're paying for?
It's in their accounting system. They actually.
When somebody buys a beer, they write down it's for a beer?
Was for that section of revenues that cover drinks, beers.
Because that's one of the reasons why we were asking for a POS system for out there. And I thought it was really, really clear that was the wishes of the commission. And we went from, we don't have time to, we're not doing it. And that's very disappointing because I thought we were very clear on implementing that out there so we
Intent is to
could.
still do the point of
Right.
sale. It's just incrementally being done department by department. The ones who didn't have any system, remotely, we've already converted. Now done the, her comment on how pleased she is with how we're incrementally moving towards it. It's not that we're not going to do it. Our intent is to do it. All departments. But actually, the golf course, I think, has got a better accounting system than some we've been using. Have more retail sales, if you will, of product.
Didn't have one at all.
But that's the message, our message. Tyler efforts, how much of a difference conversations with them, we're actually utilizing some of the software features that while we're waiting for the chair.
Well, we are, Danny Williams, Director of Operations. We are getting with Tyler with the AMI system. We are going to, prepay. With also, we're going to have where we can do credit card, online paying. We are changing our paying system completely in the utility department. It's possible we could look at others. I was thinking once we do get through and see how it goes with utilities, we can maybe roll this into. They're capable of doing all this stuff. We didn't realize we got a good person now, a new rep with Tyler, and she's exposed us to quite a few new things that Tyler can offer for us. So, yeah, it's doable. I mean, you can track anything and everything, any type of sale or
When was the original year of purchase of Tyler?
2012.
2012. Yeah, we were
10 years
we were
later,
using the
we finally
basics.
got a good person
Yeah.
at Tyler
They,
that's gonna,
I agree. I wasn't a fan until this lady showed up, but she's really
Bless her
helped us a
heart.
lot.
And there've been some updates during that period, but purchased features speak to those.
And we're still not utilizing them.
Well, one of the things we've got is going to be text to pay for the young generation. In other words, it notifies you got your bills due, you text, and you pay it. So it's text to pay. That's one of the things we're going to have also. So,
I appreciate the fact that the two of you have moved forward with Tyler and trying to get those other components online and using fully what we paid for.
well,
Them to answer a phone call.
well, we are going automated.
Y'all do PayPal or can
Yes,
you?
it will be. Yes,
Okay.
it'll have all the, everything. It is an IVR. I'm going to break that down. I'm going to be honest with you guys, and it's a good time to bring it up. Those girls get pounded every day, all day. But the problem is how much is my bill? That's 9 out of 10 calls. Just come sit any day you'd like.
Especially the last two months.
Yes, what's my bill? Well, you did receive a bill, correct? Yes, but I don't know where it is. So we also, Tyler has a system now that will send a notification what your bill is. If they have an email, it's got a lot of features to it, and we're going to use those features.
So those people who want to know what their bill is, if we just ask them for their phone number, we can send it to them directly to their phone?
Yep, we're going to ship it to them, and the IVR is going to supposedly handle that.
Are we going to give the customers an option to go paperless?
Yeah, that's it.
Encourage them to
That's
do
what
it.
we want. That's what we've been wanting to do. I want a work order system. I mean, I get tired of faxes. That's 1980.
Not to digress, but I sat here and I said, we got to remind everybody to keep their mic on. And here I am talking, mine was off. I
If we're going to
apologize.
encourage our
then it'd be
customers
about
to go
8 inches.
paperless, will there
On it,
still
they
be
need
a
about 8
fee
inches longer
for them
than
to
ours.
pay?
Yes, and Tyler says they would
Hey,
like
there
to
she
see us
comes.
to absorb it. It would be
'Cause if
best
not,
for
they're
us
gonna
to
be
pay.
handheld mics.
It's like $1.25.
Yeah.
$2.
Yeah, you can
It'd be
actually
much-
move around with them.
Much cheaper for us to do that. We will make up because people will start using it. They've
Right.
seen that in the past. So
Okay.
that's what their recommendation is. Because I was thinking too, we'll just add the charge to the
I just know
customer.
as a consumer, I often pay mine that way,
Yeah.
and
That's all my.
I don't
stuff.
love that there's a fee, you know?
No.
Because I mean,
We're gonna absorb
nowhere else that I pay online do I pay extra to pay online necessarily, you know?
Get a discount.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a bit there.
All right,
Thanks,
Sherry,
Danny.
That fee, is that a pass-through,
Whenever
Danny?
you're ready.
Is that what we're being charged to do that, the payment online?
It will be. when
No,
we
but is
start.
that what, $1.25 or what?
Yes, yeah, oh,
Okay.
yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Using this. I do have, I was in the process of
Okay, so-
converting everything to PDF because I have all the notes in the system. So
Good.
if we want to get back to
To the transfer question, yeah, on the reserve.
Page 5.
To that, and bear with me here.
You're
And that's
good.
page 1 and 14, I think, was the two.
Yes, so if we're talking about our cash forward, 15,000 of that is from the voluntary recreation fund. This is the uses.
Which is a restricted fund.
Well, it's the,
That's-
yes,
Are we-
so 15,000 was what we had proposed to use the recreation department to get started with the supplies that they need. All the uses out of the reserves. So, 4,100 is to purchase the ice machine. Still in, Public Works, 29. Community Building, $15,000. Carry forward code enforcement vehicle, 20.
I thought CARES money was going to be used for the improvements.
There are some items designated for CARES funding.
I thought this was going to be paid for with CARES money.
It's an eligible use. And
What was
The 15,000?
The upgrade.
Actually, the city vehicle and the 15,000 for the upgrades in here.
But didn't we talk about CARES money being used for this? And the county was gonna pay half, it's $30,000 for this?
Yeah, the county's paid all of it, and then we're reimbursing them for our share of half.
Equipment,
That included those funds.
that included $15,000.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. That was before CARES and before that we borrowed those funds.
3 years to get
Yep.
5
Taking
mics
that
and a
long.
camera?
Well, that's how long ago the money was borrowed.
And the projector. Screen.
Absolutely.
Because I remember specifically talking about CARES money being, it was eligible for that, and we were
Well,
gonna use those
for the
funds
next
it.
phases for replacing all of our computers, that's only going to be on your next agenda to finish that out for our insurance benefits and other benefits. That is all proposed to be using ARPA funds.
So not ARPA, that we talk about CARES.
CARES we used for the law enforcement vehicles and the technology upgrades related to that. And
So we spent it, now we're using this for it, the CARES dollar.
This was
Remember
always
ever
a
talking
loan.
about CARES dollars for this?
I don't recall. I know we did talk about upgrading our technology, but it was primarily the law enforcement side of it and the vehicles and the communication system that upgrade to E911. That was the primary technology upgrade we used the CARES dollars for. But we've got a breakdown of all the CARES expenditures we can share with you, but I don't recall this being one of them either. But,
I don't want to lose sight of where we're out here.
No, that answers the question, though. Thank you for getting that.
Okay.
Now, my rub is we're using over $500,000 out of our reserves. And I don't like that, to have to use that, and I know y'all don't either, but I would sure like to see us sharpen the pencil, get that number down, because and maybe we can talk about this at the budget part of it, but how are we going to put money back in? What's your plan for that? I know you have a plan, because you said
Yep.
we plan on building it, but
that's
that's
our
got to come from somewhere.
desire.
And the fact is, expenses are going to go up every year, but our tax base is going to go up very little unless we get more property within the city and so forth, and new homes and things like that. And that's not going to happen in the next couple of years, because it just takes time to even plot that stuff and get the infrastructure in. So I'm just trying to look ahead a little. I hope you can put $500,000 back in, but I don't see it happening next year. But again, we can talk about that,
Chair,
your
I have a-
plan to do that, maybe at the budget workshop.
I have a question that he's brought up, the 550-some thousand. Are those, which reserve funds are those out of?
Our reserves are our reserves.
Right, so from water, sewer,
No,
or
we're
is
only
restricted,
talking
talking
about
about
General
restricted general
is what
fund?
he
Okay.
asked me about.
All right,
Yeah.
When we get, that's what we were on, is the general fund.
okay.
And then just a couple more, these are easy questions. The county gives us, I think it was 150 for rec.
Yes.
Does that go to the rec budget, or, I know it goes in the general fund, but is it aimed towards recreation? Like, do we have to
Well,
use it there? Since
Well,
they
yes.
earmark it there?
Well, because our recreation expenses they exceed the 150,000.
By about 600,000.
I know, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
Do we-
Yes.
Does the money go there, and do we use it in rec?
Well, it goes into our revenues, but yes, sir. Yes. I mean, it's the general fund revenues, and it is listed as a cultural and recreation revenue. And yes, it is used for that purpose.
And the same with the school contribution.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they require evidence that we used it, or
Mm-hmm.
is it just?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Sherry had to give them a 5-year average on what we used not long ago.
Because it's only for certain things.
No,
No, it's the softball, the baseball, softball fields, senior building, I mean, there's
it
some
excludes
specific.
John Boy, golf course, any of those. It's in the parks and recreation operations, programs and facilities, maintenance primarily. Yeah, I think we did that report, if I remember correctly, it was over 600,000 more than we were receiving, we were spending on average for the last 4 or 5 years from both sources.
And then we talked about this, I think is my last question for now, but we talked about the $6,000 from the country club lease going into the golf course. I don't personally think that's good accounting, and I'm not saying that you did that. I'm just saying, as a general, where does the other lease money go to from our other buildings?
All of it goes into, as I understand it, and Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, all of the lease funds go into the general fund revenues generally.
So,
When she did her analysis, she included it just simply because it's on the same property, but it's not officially designated for golf course
It's in
expenditures.
the golf course revenue budget.
no, sir.
No, no.
So
Wait,
if
was
you,
None
if
of
you'll
them.
bear with me.
She did it in that presentation she did, that report showing it as one of the things that generates revenue, but it's not officially going directly to the golf course. They don't collect it.
If you'll look on page 7 of the tentative budget, you'll see it's a category, it's called rents and royalties. You'll see the total, and you'll see that the country club is listed in there, as well as the T signs, because when we list rents or leases out, they have to be in the same place. But for presentation purposes, when we're talking about funding sources, because it's all the general fund, but when we talk about funding sources, we reflect that the T-sign leases are part of the funding source for the golf course. And the reason being that the Clewiston Country Club rent became that way is because in the past, during different management periods of time, whenever you would have an expense that's on the exterior of the country club, sometimes it would be posted and it would be captured as a general fund revenue. Then management, a different management would come along and they would say, no, that's really part of the golf course. So the last management before Mr. Martin, it was in the golf course, and it just made sense because it's the same location. So when we talk about funding sources, we just simply show it there because tomorrow, if the awning falls or something like that, we're going to have to replace it, and we're going to budget or allocate those funds, and it's going to go to the golf course, and we're going to show that expense there. But it's just when we talk about it as funding sources.
But they're not restricted and directly received by the golf course. None of these are. They're a category unto themselves, rents and royalties, which includes the ones you mentioned about other rental properties, the country club, and the, as Sherry pointed out, the golf course sign lease dollars.
And then if you were to turn to page 4, you'll see that we have the, let's see, no, I'm sorry, page 5, the last category there, the last subtotal there, that's all of the other revenues that are associated with, and they are distinct to the golf course.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand all
No,
those.
I just wanted to
I was just
explain
had
it
the
was for
one.
presentation purposes because of the expense.
Right, but it
line.
also shows that the golf course is $6,000 better off than they really are.
Good point. Yeah.
And
The
that's
way
not-
that is being presented,
That's not accurate. I think, and I know the management did all that. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. Please understand. But this commission needs to make a decision of what category.
Not the manager.
Form a new one about all our lease property. I would suggest all lease property goes into a separate, maybe you'd have to create another thing and then pay the bills out of that. But just
Okay.
because it's in the
For-
same location doesn't.
Maintenance.
So you have the
Maintenance,
expense,
pays the
you had it
maintenance.
as revenue, but you also listed the expenses coming out for maintenance
I don't.
cost or
Whenever
whatever.
we talk, it's simply just a matter, and I
No, I understand. I understand what happened.
Like,
I'm just-
all of this is mandated by the state, these categories. But whenever we're talking about different expenses, just for presentation purposes, we have included that $6,000. I understand that your point is not to, but we were told in the past to do that. So we
agree.
have,
I know.
because all of the expenses for the country club come out of that golf course expense line, which is culture and recreation. So, I mean, we can do anything. We can move all the expenses that have anything to do with the country club back into the general fund. We can do that. Or you could set a special fund up, and if you wanted to capture that, and it would be rental facilities, and you would have another budget, and it would just be another fund in here by resolution. You could ask the attorney how to create that, and you could have a separate fund if you just wanted to pay the bills for all specific buildings that were associated with rents.
You know, it's just a matter of, is it worth it for $28,000 out of the whole bigger scheme? But certainly you can account for it separately.
Or we can
I haven't
account for it.
reviewed changing that because it was already in place and hadn't come up before, but certainly we can, for presentation purposes, we can show it either way. For the board's evaluation, I agree with you, the board has to appropriate it. We can't spend it or do anything with it unless you appropriate it and include it somewhere. But we're not using directly that money restricted just for golf course expenses. You know, it's going into the general fund because none of the recreation-related things are a separate fund. They're all lumped into general fund, including the golf course. The only separate funds we got for those kind of operations are water and sewer, electric, and solid waste, and mosquito control, a few of those, miscellaneous. But that's a good discussion because that sometimes gets misunderstood, and it's not an operating fund in and of itself. It's in the general fund where all the recreation and culture and
Well, it would also make it easier. One of our previous meetings, we asked for a breakdown on, what we spend on our leased property and
yes, and we had to go do
had to go look it up.
Yeah.
If you had it already separate, it just might be easier,
it would have been a lot easier to just produce that report.
to make sure we're not losing money on our leased property, that's all.
Good point. Also, while you stepped out, Sherry, you and I discussed this about the breakdown on the recreation revenues. Commissioner Pittman asked about that, and we pointed to that page he mentioned while you were out, and I told him you could give him more specifics on it. Because the question was the increase amount, were we comfortable and be able to defend going up to 70,000? I think that was on page, I forgot which page that one was on.
5.
Is it 5?
It starts on 4, the bottom of 4.
Yeah, auditorium fees, this is why you were getting the papers, it over doubled, but then I know we had the rate increases or the lease rental increases. I thought it was still a little high just personally, but if Lauren and everyone's comfortable that they can,
This budget was built with the idea of they average about 35 rentals a year. And it was just a plain, what is an average rental? Because every rental is a little different. Like some people are gonna pay more because they're gonna they're gonna decorate early, or they're gonna get the auditorium a day. But this was just very general with the increases, and we can go back to the pages that we provided that had the increase and that did show the percentage of the increase and what it would do to the budget. But it was built on 35,
Okay.
which is a conservative, which I feel is a conservative estimate. But we can certainly revisit the fees that we're charging.
no, you answered it right there. If you're based it on your average, then
That's what we're doing, and then you'll see, we pulled out, we separated simply to keep up with it, like you just said. We had setup fees and supervisory fees that were all like together. The youth center and the John Boy were mixed together in the revenues, and it was very difficult to keep up with. So this year I separated it so that when it gets recorded, it's easier for finance, if we're asked, to pull it up, and it'll already be separated, and we won't have to go through and rely on the billing part of recreation to worry about that. It'll be quicker on our part. And so you will see, if you look at the end, on page 5, the end of the culture and recreation, you'll see some new, there's like 3 different lines there. And anything to do with police security is in the public safety revenue part of the revenues, because it's its own, it's, you can't rent a building, a recreation building, without the police security, but it's public safety, it's security, so it's included in those revenue lines.
Thanks, Sherry. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we have a motion by Hyslop, a second by Gardner. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And of course,
Hearing
go ahead, Mayor.
Motion carries. Go ahead, Mr.
With
Martin.
with a reminder that even before the final tenant hearing, I would like to see that number down. That's
Sure.
me.
I follow you,
I think
and
we can sharpen pencils and
we can further analyze it, and we can talk about it in the workshop portion, but in detail. But I just was going to remind that we will have a public hearing and final review in it's almost 2 weeks, on the 19th. Before then, so this action is just required at tonight's step, but nothing is finalized until that action after that public hearing, and we can take a further analysis of those details and look more closely at reserve usage in any of the funds, but in particular the general fund, now that the questions have been raised and the concerns.
And that's on our meeting night, the 19th.
Correct. That would be the final. Yes, it's a regular meeting on the 19th.
So the time is 5:47. At this time, I'm going to close the budget hearing, and we will move on to the special meeting agenda. And that's going to be item number 3.
Let's see, number 2, I think we still got to deal with that one also.
Oops, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Item number 2, resolution number 22-068.
Yeah, and what we're doing here is dealing with the utility recommendations and changes, and the solid waste fund will be the next item. And that's more of a time-driven thing, as you know, to give as much notice to our customer base as possible of impending changes that'll take effect with the October billings. So with that, that's the purpose of these items. I think traditionally we have looked at these at the first hearing because they need to be in place as soon as possible, particularly since some of the implications for our customers, such as South Shore Water Association and others, are included.
Resolution 2022-068 amends Appendix A, Section 17 of the Clewiston Code of Ordinances, and includes rates for bulk water sales to South Shore Water Association and adjusts the monthly sewer rates pursuant to Section 74-111 of the Clewiston Code of Ordinances. City's financial position will be adequately funded with a series of rate increases for the water sewer fund in the coming period of 2022 to 2024. Recommended motion is to approve Resolution 2022-068. We have a motion.
so moved.
Second.
Motion by Pittman, second by Gardner. Discussion?
One other comment I wanted to share is the board had previously adopted this multi-year schedule that's included in this resolution. Sherry will be glad to review the details that we covered in the workshop, but this does modify the sewer portion and the South Shore Water Association implications. Previously, you see the old rates that were done as a result of our rate studies, and the conditions, particularly in the sewer area, have changed, and that's why those changes are recommended. But we're still following, as you know, the water recommendations for the water rate side that were included.
And that was adopted in January of 2021.
Yes, ma'am. And so nothing is really changing on the water side except for the South Shore Water Association insert on the water side. If you have any questions, the sewer, we went through that at length in the wastewater discussion during the workshops earlier this last month. But Sherry and I will be glad to comment further on them. But I think we presented the case that the board had this language included that's still in there to take a look annually at and consider whether additional adjustments are necessary related to cost of living and things of that nature. And this falls certainly within that. The sewer rates, as they currently, the rates being generated, the revenue being generated is not sufficient to meet our obligations. And again, we can answer more questions if you want to further discuss that side of it. But this resolution will affect the change for the coming year, and I'll stop at that.
Yeah.
Sherry,
And
you
I'm-
want to add anything?
I misspoke. Actually, the resolution was adopted in April of 2020.
Yes,
with
2020 was the
effective date
year
of
prior.
January
Yeah.
1st, 2021.
Yeah. Sherry, do you want to add anything or correct anything I just said?
Randy, I had several questions that you were going to look into. Did you get answers to those?
On
South Shore, their contract, are we obligated for a?
We're still researching those kind of things, but this rate is, we believe, within the parameters of the current agreement. There's no conflict with the rate change, but
We also
the other
asked-
questions are
We
still
also
being
asked
researched.
for that agreement, because y'all didn't know the specifics of that agreement.
Yeah, we'll be glad to provide that to you. And an attorney, we'll certainly be discussing with him other potential changes subsequent to this, but obviously this would be effective immediately, these changes going into the next fiscal year.
This don't specifically give the rate increase, it just gives the rate. What is the increase?
On which one?
South Shore Water.
You-
Actually, it's $1.90, it's 39.
And that's the first increase in 15 years, I think we established.
I can't speak to how long whether it's been modified. Can you comment on that? I'm not aware of any that's been mentioned to me in recent years anyway.
Thought we had that discussion of the last meeting.
It hasn't been modified since I have done the budget, which was, I believe, 2017
A long
was the
time.
first one.
So we at least
So-
know it's been 5+ years, or 6 years counting the next year.
Because I'm just saying here, a resident next year is going to pay $5.75 for every 1,000 gallons over 20,000, and they're paying $2.30, and I don't think that's just.
Well, again,
Just me.
the big distinction is, and I'm glad you revisited that because we want to make sure everyone understands that, the city charges its customers for the full cost of producing the water and the distribution, and we maintain their distribution system. The customers outside the city, which are not customers of the city directly, South Shore Water customers of their association, we're only charging them for producing the water, and then they're responsible for the distribution system and cost associated with that. And Sherry, you want to go over or comment on how we arrived at the portion of their cost?
Other than to say that there's a flat fee, because this is bulk sales. I don't know how many customers that they have, but I do know that they're paying every month a flat fee of $25,873.12 as their portion of the debt service that's associated with the RO plant, for the purpose of a third of the plant being available, a third of the production being available for their purchase. That's why it was done. So every month, on top of that $2.30 per 1,000 gallons is a flat fee of $25,873.12.
So for that 25,673, they get the 25,000 gallons, and they pay the $2.30 for everything above the 25,000?
No.
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 It's
From
just-
zero up. the usage. One's a usage fee and one is a capitalization fee. Could you comment though, Sherry, on the 230 itself, how you arrived at that number? Because that's comparable to our cost of producing it, as I recall in your breakdown of what the fee, how we arrive at the 230. That's what.
I believe we discussed that, that's cost of what it takes for us to produce it.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's my recollection as well.
that's what I had heartburn over, that we didn't mark it up at all.
Yes, it is.
And we don't know how the prior fee, the 39-cent less fee was devised, but I presume it included some sort of evaluation of cost to produce the water. And at this point,
Contract, does it discuss their rate per thousand, or does it leave it open for the city?
well, that's the part we're researching from the legal standpoint with this. And there's been some research done on the relationship between the city and South Shore previously, but we're revisiting that for further consideration.
But we do have the agreement for the monthly flat fee.
Correct.
Was it 20 years, Sherry? 25 years?
I believe it's 25 years.
25 years,
That's
they're
my
paying us
recollection.
that amount every month, okay.
Yeah, that's set. The bulk rate is not set except by action of the city, like we're doing tonight. How,
In my opinion, I think it should be cost plus.
and
We can decide the plus.
well, that's going to be part of the consideration that we're going to do with this extra analysis to see if there are any limitations on that based on the previously approved agreement. If not, then it'll be purely at the discretion. And as I said at that meeting, I think that's a good discussion to have. And we'll be doing that.
And
So we'll have that come
that
up before us.
information by the 19th.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We'll have that information by the 19th.
I don't know if we'll have all of that. We'll certainly can evaluate whether that one point, are there any limitations? Hopefully Dylan and I can discuss that and Danny and see if there's any,
And the copies of the agreement.
yeah, that we can certainly provide those.
Those can be
Here's-
emailed to everybody ahead of time.
Just another thought about it. The capital price they're paying for 25,673 is for 30% or 33?
It was a third, right, Sherry? Do you remember if it was 30 or 33? Is it a third of the plant capacity?
Yes.
Is a
One
third?
third is 33. So why don't we take what we're charging our customers, subtract 33% and see where we are? That might be a fair way of doing
But
it.
we could also analyze the distribution of the debt. Is ours comparable to theirs? Because potentially they could be subsidizing more than a third, but I don't know. We'll look at that, but we can certainly analyze that. I haven't done that personally.
So we just need to look at, you guys are going to review the agreement and bring it back to us.
Yeah. Yeah, we were going to do a subsequent consideration and recommendations for the board to consider going forward. This is just to set the rate, and we feel it needs to be increased immediately with the new fiscal year, at least this much. Any subsequent actions you consider on changes to the relationship would certainly be forthcoming.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
But just another quick comment. So do we want to set this rate now and then possibly change it in 2 weeks? Or do we want to table it or?
Now, I'd recommend you set this now, and then any subsequent changes you make, because, again, I don't know the implications for the agreement, would be post October 1, because we need to give notice, and it may be we got to give more notice for some other changes that go beyond this. This is consistent with what we understand the current arrangement, the way they've been billed for the last several years.
Well, I got a comment. Just because the lack of answers in the contract in front of us, I can't support it tonight.
Well, this wouldn't preclude you from doing anything in addition, but we need to give notice that this is coming at least. But it's your call.
We have a motion and a second.
We
right?
do. We have a motion and a second. Are you calling for question?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries, one dissension, and that is Commissioner Thompson.
And again, there's nothing to preclude additional action, so I certainly understand the comment. I don't know if the attorneys, if he wants to make any comments about that arrangement. I don't know if he's had a chance to study.
Renenberg is on the line. Dylan, would you like to address the issue?
Well, like Randy said, this doesn't necessarily preclude you from just making a subsequent change in the future. Of course, you have to look at this all within the limitations of the agreement with South Shore. I haven't reviewed that yet. I most certainly will within the next couple of days. We're definitely going to take a look at that relationship, I think. I guess certainly you can revisit this in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we will communicate the action on this, and also to all of our customers, the new rates, so that they're notified as soon as possible.
So, okay, thank you, Randy.
And Sherry and Danny, can y'all comment on the effective date, how that impacts the billing for which period? I want to be sure everyone understood that when these changes go into effect.
We would have them go into effect for any billing that's effective after October 1st.
Yeah, because
October 1st
we
and
do
after.
number of billings. We break it out. It's 5, is that right?
I believe it's 7.
7. So excuse me, seven different cycles. So that's it.
Moving on, item number 3, resolution number 2022-069. This adjusts the monthly garbage collection rates as contained in Appendix A, Section 19, subsection A of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Clewiston, pursuant to Section 74-114 of the Clewiston Code of Ordinances. During the budget process, the commission reviewed a cost analysis for collection services provided by the Solid Waste Fund. They discussed the need to revise the rates to adequately fund operations. The city's financial position will be adequately funded with the revised rates for the Solid Waste Fund. Recommended motion is to approve resolution number 2022-069.
As revised, the revised version. That's just to remind you.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Thompson. We have a second by Pittman. Discussion?
Two things I did want to point out. The highlighted number is the only one that wasn't, it was erroneously skipped, and so it's to make it comparable with what the additional charge in item 2 for a second container, if you will, and the pickup for that, keep those comparable. The other point, I just want to remind, and for the audience, citizens, that one of the significant changes is a major upgrade to our equipment stock. That's been a real concern, and we've had significant over expenditures in the last couple of years, in particular this year, for making sure we keep the service delivered on time to all customers. Danny certainly can answer any questions, but this budget contemplates a significant expenditure. I believe it was 100, what was it, Sherry, 100 plus per year. We anticipate a debt service likely being our chosen option. It will come back to the commission to acquire these major equipment items that total, I believe it was 900 and some. Yeah, it's a conservative estimate of the expense related to replacing, I believe it was 3 of our major equipment items. Danny can review those if you need, or for the public, but these are very expensive equipment items, and the city hasn't has much outdated equipment in this area, and we've had a lot of repairs and lease cost to try to get equipment that's adequate to serve the service.
Thank you, Randy. So we have a motion by Thompson, second by Pittman. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, item number 4 is resolution number 2022-070. This approves purchase order number 22838 for the emergency purchase from Lakeside Equipment and authorizes the payment in the amount of $36,515. That will be the financial impact to the city, $36,515. And this is for the purchase of a Magna rotor assembly for wastewater, Danny? Okay. Recommended motion is to approve Resolution 2022-070.
So moved.
Motion by Heisler, second by Gardner. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. At this time, we will shift gears. Time is 18:06, and I will call to order the budget workshop agenda. Do we have any additions to